Hello. Hi. My name is Rebecca. I am the host of the Me&You podcast. This is a safe place on the internet for all things personal evolution, self reflection, compassionate community. And today we're going to be talking a lot about community because the world is in a really scary place. And I'm careful when I say that because the world is actually always in a scary place. Like if you go back through history, crazy shit has always been happening. But I think that one of the biggest things that we're seeing today is that we are all able to capture what's happening and we're all able to give our own input on it. And I think that has added a magnifying glass for the craziness that goes on because it's no longer something that you hear about that's distant away. It's like you can be in your bed and be learning about what's going on in Gaza or going on with some of the biggest political things going on in our country. And I kind of want to get into all of that today. And I kind of want to get into like, how do you take care of yourself? Also, fair warning, my energy is chaotic because I waited way too damn long to record today. I fucked around too much, procrastinated too well, stayed in bed way too long, and now it's dark out. So the lighting feels really weird in here, really grainy. But the lighting is actually always never good because I don't have the finances yet to afford high quality equipment. So I'm recording on a computer that is probably half my age, honestly. So, we're doing the best we can out here. But yeah, that being said, I like just put a load of laundry in and I'm wearing a turtleneck. Why am I wearing a turtleneck? It's like fucking 80 degrees. I don't know because it's fall and it's Florida and it's November, but we have to make fall happen. Like I was talking to a friend the other day about how like in Florida, you have to make the seasons happen. Like if you don't pumpkin spice, there will be no pumpkin spice. Like there will just be no natural fall elements. Like it's gonna be hot and it's gonna be palm trees all year long. So like you gotta make it happen. So if I don't turn down the air and wear a turtleneck, who will? Like a turtleneck will not be seen this season. You know what I'm saying? So all that to be said, I just feel kind of chaotic. And also the worst part of all is that I'm actually not sure that this is capturing anything right now because I ran 3 test recordings and it wouldn't capture because it was saying my Wi-Fi was bad, which I don't know what that is about because girl, I ran the test. Like, what do you want from me? Anyway, so here we are, jumping courses. The first thing I want to say when we're talking about this conversation about how do you take care of yourself in a world that feels like chaos, this idea of self care is such a privilege. I was listening to a podcast a long time ago from the We Can Do Hard Things podcast, and they had a guest on. She was born and raised in, I believe, North Korea and then moved to the States sometime in her early childhood, from my understanding, I think. And she was talking about how, like, this idea of like knowing your triggers and knowing what it traumatizes you and being able to look back on something and say that was traumatic. All of this is a privilege. Like, people who are just actually out here surviving and like actually dealing with, I don't want to say actually dealing because trauma is so relative. Like, your body only knows your trauma. But like, if you kind of understand the point that I'm trying to make, that she was basically saying that, like, people in war torn countries don't know that they're being traumatized. Like they're not like, oh, this is such a trigger for me. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's not to like throw stones or laugh at, this Western culture of like self healing and the individual, but it's just kind of interesting. Like, I think it feels right to start the conversation there because it's like healing, self care being a debate of whether it's a face mask and a bubble bath or going to therapy. Like, all of these things, oh my goodness, is such a privilege. Like, we are so lucky to even be able to look back at our lives in this way. And I think everyone should be able to do that. Like, I think it's a privilege that we should all have. I think it's a right. But that being said, it feels right to open the conversation with this idea that, like, not everyone in the world has access to be able to even look at their past or look at things that are going on in their life through the lens of inner healing and inner work. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is just like such a privilege that we have the opportunity to do. The fact that we even get to have discourse about our self care is just so lucky, honestly. And that being said, it is still a really, really, really important topic, and there are so many different moving parts about it, and there's so much discourse about it. And one of the things that I've been seeing lately is like this idea that we focus so heavily on the individual, especially in westernized healing. I was seeing a lot of videos on this the other day, probably because my phone was listening to me as I was planning this episode. But I was seeing a lot of videos the other day of like people kind of talking about how we're so focused on the individual for collective healing, and how we have this whole idea that like all of the healing in the world starts with you, and like this is like what happened to you, and what is your history, and what is your childhood, and how is it manifested. And not to say that literally all of those elements are not so important, because they absolutely are. I just think it's interesting to hear that perspective, because it was a different perspective for me to hear. And it did kind of aliven or awaken something in me that, yeah, we are not as communal as we used to be. You need to back your ass the fuck up. Oh my god, dude, I'm so sorry. Dude, go. I'm so sorry. So my one of the cats in this household loves to fuck with the recording equipment, and I'm not having it today. I'm not having it. Like, it's not happening, dude. Anyway, so yeah, so okay, let me bring it back. Yeah, I just think it's an important perspective to hold, that like there was a time where we were just so much more connected to one another, and there has been a bit of a severing of community and kind of an intensification. Is that even a word? I don't know, guys. It's bizarre. It's the evening. I'm recording in the evening, and I never record in the evening. I always do the mornings. But anyway, it has intensified this look, this like honed in look on the individual. And I want to be careful that that honed in look isn't severing us from the way that we are deeply connected to the collective. And I saw this video the other day where this guy was saying like, don't mind me, I'm he said something like, I'm just worrying about my village and my community, because for generations, for thousands of years, our ancestors only ever knew what was going on in their village. They weren't thinking about what was going on elsewhere. And the comments were so mixed on that, and I thought that was a really interesting thing to bring up, because I do feel like we talk about how social media is like a double-edged sword. I think one of the good sides of the sword is that like we can see what's going on all the way across the world, and we can draw attention and public recognition to so many different places, and international support for one another. And I think that's really beautiful. And some of the comments were, really like against what that person had posted, and some people are really advocating for it. We're like, I don't understand why people are so upset. And it was just an interesting perspective. I haven't totally formed my opinion on it, because I do see what they're saying, but at the same time, it feels like such a blessing and a gift and a purposeful thing to be able to know what's going on in other places, and to be able to care deeply about that. But I do want to say that in that work of caring for ourselves is like, we have to recognize that we live in a world with other people, and we have to also look out for fellow human. And we also like our rights, our health, our opportunities are only as vast as the rights and health and opportunities of the most oppressed individual. Because if somebody or something, if a system is going to do something to someone else, why would they not do it to you at some point? It's just worth thinking about. So yeah, I want to talk about also, before we get into like real tangible tips of like, okay, so then how the fuck do you take care of yourself in a world like this? Now we have all these disclaimers, all these caveats, like how do we do that? And I kind of want to give a little bit more information, a little bit more, discourse about this, and would love to know your thoughts in a loving, thought-provoking way. Like, what are your thoughts on this? But another thing in this conversation is this idea of polarization, which is so interesting to me. We hear this all the time now. People are so polarized. It's the right versus the left, and Democrats versus Republicans, and people are so divided, and da 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 da. Like, that rhetoric that we all have heard. And I just think it's really interesting. And I was telling my sister the other day, it's like people are like, we're so polarized. And I'm like, have we not always been quite polarized? Like, let's travel back to like 1842 and like go onto a plantation where you have enslaved individuals providing unpaid forced labor for a certain majority of people. And you tell me that their opinions on that are not polarized from the people who are enslaving them. Like, let's even travel further back in time. Like, how many times in history have we been so polarized? We always have been, in my opinion. I think that like humans have quite literally always dealt with a difference in opinion. I think we have a difference of handling it now. And also we have a difference of showcasing it. So this is the first time in history, and we're witnessing a really interesting part of history where like this is the very first time where everyone is able to document their experience. Everyone who has access to a phone can record and share their lives, their thoughts, their experiences, what's happening, injustices and celebrations, and all of the things in between. And I think that has, if anything, just showcased our polarization or highlighted it. But in no way or means do I think that we're more polarized than ever. Personally, in my opinion, I just think that more people have voices now that weren't in the past. Also, to add to that, the situation is not made better by political leaders who encourage that polarization, right? Like we all saw, Donald Trump's most recent post on X where he was talking about how, okay, fine, release the Epstein files, like look into these Democrats. This emphasis on right versus left, Democrats versus Republicans. First of all, in that instance alone, sex trafficking children transcends all political affiliation. You are not making your side look better by saying, "Oh, but it was them too. You need to look at them." Like this isn't making things better. Like that is not an excuse. It's not justification, and it's just a way to kind of detract. And we saw this, and we've seen this so many times through history, where like a purposeful divide has been drawn through people to distract us from a more serious thing happening. And the more serious thing is like, guys, if we all coalesce together, imagine what we could get done. But we can't do that because we're so busy being in such opposition to each other. Granted, there's real reasons for that opposition. Don't get me wrong. Like these are real debates and topics being brought up, all the way from Jeffrey Epstein to Gaza and Israel to healthcare and SNAP benefits, and all the way to same-sex marriage, and like the level of things that we are talking about as a society and as a collective, and how everyone is able to weigh in. There is a lot happening here. And a common tone I see through that is like, I just don't want to be political. And like, I just don't want to get involved in politics. And it's like, first of all, we all know what a privilege to not have your rights questioned enough for you to care. Second, everything is political. That's the thing. Everything is political. And I don't see why that has to be such a bad thing. I took a course in college and it was American government. And our teacher talked about how everything from the toilet paper that we wipe our ass with is political. Everything that we experience, everything that we see, infrastructure, architecture, agriculture, it's all political. All of it. Our rights are political. And like, I don't think that has to be something that pushes us away. I think that can be something that ignites us. Like, oh, wow, we the people, like we really do have power. But instead, somehow along the way, it has disenfranchised us and it's disengaged us and it's made us feel sour and incapable of making change, because it does feel that way. That's a real feeling. And it's like, how the fuck do you care so much when it feels like your care means nothing? Because these random ass motherfuckers in Congress and in the Senate, etc., are going to make decisions on your life without your input. And it's a crazy, jarring feeling that I'm noticing echoed amongst all people involved. It's not like one side is like, this is chaos, and then the other side is like, no, we're living our best lives. Like both sides, quote unquote sides, I don't believe it's sides. I don't think you can draw humanity in a side, but all people involved are saying this is a lot. There's a lot happening. Like this is chaos. Whether your point is inflation or same-sex marriage, like this is chaos. And there is chaos happening and it feels chaotic. And I think part of why it feels chaotic is because one of the biggest figureheads of our country is chaotic and incites chaos, I think sometimes in a purposeful way, which I in no way intend to sound like a conspiracy theorist, because I'm not trying to discredit my argument or discredit my plight, but really consider some of the language that this person uses. And it's like, is this helping? Like, is this harmful or helpful? Like, actually just ask yourself, like, objectively, is this a way to lead a country? That all being said, we are in some ways more similar than we think. We are in some ways more capable of common ground than we think. But when we get so caught up on our polarization and dig our nails in and push each other, that's when things get tense. I'm not here today to totally talk about that. I just wanted to lay the political landscape, especially if you're an international listener and you just have your popcorn in hand, like what's going on in this country? Like, oh, how it must be nice to be in Canada right now or wherever else. Like, it's just a damn mess here in the States, but it's a mess in a lot of places, actually. So I take that back. But anyway, how do we find the balance of remaining involved, but not losing ourselves in that process? That is the biggest thing that I'm wondering because personally, I have lost the plot. Like, I am so far disconnected from myself, guys. I wake up and the first thing I do is go online and just start researching the news. What's happening today? What's going on? Like, just trying to get educated and stay involved because it feels wrong to not do that. And also, I'm anxious about it. I'm anxious about the state of the world. I'm anxious about my fellow human. I care about my fellow human. And I'm finding that it's disrupting my peace. So, I'm starting my day with this. I'm going through my day, checking my phone, checking the news updates, checking all of this stuff. I'm ending my day by watching videos about it and reading about it before bed and scrolling on Instagram about it. And it's like, how do I take care of myself in that process? What is the balance? So, the first thing I want to say is filtering your information intake. So, rather than doom scrolling, find two reputable sources to source your news from that you can go to on a consistent basis. This doesn't mean like this is the only place that you'll take your news because of course we want to make sure we're not trapping ourselves in an echo chamber, but like find just a few sources that okay, I can trust this for my news. Intentionally make time to look into that and intentionally make time to set yourself apart from it because your nervous system needs boundaries. And it's like, okay, so what does it mean to check them intentionally? It means that you start your day grounding and anchoring into your reality, into your body, into your experience. Maybe that looks like making your bed. Maybe that looks like opening your blinds. Maybe that looks like doing a brief meditation or prayer or taking a shower, washing your face, something to connect you to your senses and your inner world so that you are ready and capable to take on the destruction of the outer world. Because we have to protect our energy throughout this. And protecting our energy is like such a hot button topic right now, too. Like, I'm seeing so much discourse about that online. Like, what is protecting your energy? What is avoidance? What is the line? And I love that we're having these conversations. As long as we're keeping them respectful and inquisitive and curious, this is great discourse to be having. We're asking really good questions. That being said, I do think it's important to protect your peace so that you can come to this news protected and like more clear-headed. You know what I'm saying? Like, not in an avoidant way and like not in a privileged way of like, I'll look into that when I'm ready. It's like, no, I care so deeply that I want to show up full minded so that I can actually take this information in and do something useful with it and learn from it rather than just being thrown into panic and chaos about it. Cause I think we're all realizing that like panic and chaos is not getting us where we need to go. Like, it's just like, I feel like a beetle trapped in a corner. Like, I'm just like antsy. Like, how do I get out of this? What way do I go? Like, my brain is too fogged. So like, filtering your information intake, I would say, is the first thing. I want to talk about practicing compassion without self erasure. And what I mean by that is like, we can care deeply about what's going on in the world without disconnecting from ourselves. And it's safe to say, I need a moment to process this. I need a moment to come back to myself. It's safe to do that. You're allowed to do that. You're not a bad person if you do that. You're not a bad person for saying, okay, I just saw this incredibly upsetting thing. Like, scrolling down my feed and then now, boom, I just see Epstein survivors telling their story from when they were like 13 to 16 years old. And I'm like, holy fuck, that deeply, deeply troubles my heart and my soul. It's okay to say, ooh, okay, I need a moment. I want to get educated about this topic because I care. I want to know what I can do. But also, on this random Tuesday afternoon where I was in between doing this task and going from this place to that place, like, am I in the best mindset to tackle this right now? It's important for me to be educated. It's important for me to share, but it's also important for me to protect my peace and for me to care. And that is not avoidance. And I do not believe in avoidance in this. I think you should care and you should be rattled. And I don't talk in shoulds a lot, but this is upsetting stuff. Like, you are right for feeling upset about that. How do we take that upsetness into productivity, into action? That is the question. I also want to talk about the importance of like connecting with people in this time. Like, how can you form community and not community on shared hatred? Because that's actually faux community. And actually, Brene Brown talks about that in one of her I think in her book Atlas of the Heart, and she talks about how like the like faux connection where it's like if you're just connecting with someone on things you hate, that's not a real form of connection. And she goes into it much deeper, and honestly I don't have the recollection at this time to like properly say it back to you, so I'm not even going to try, but definitely worth looking into that, this idea of like faux connection. If you just like go on Google and look up like Brené Brown faux connection or like faux, I forgot what she calls it. Oh, but it was so good. And I know my book is probably somewhere on the bookshelf nearby me, but I'm not going to get up right now to look for it. But she talks about how there's a false connection formed when we are gaining closeness with someone because of things that we hate. So rather than forming closeness about things that we hate, forming closeness on like, oh wow, we're both troubled by this thing, and what is the beauty that we want to bring into the world together? Like what is the hope that we want to bring in the world together? We're both really upset about this, and we should be upset about this. And how do we take this action in a responsible way? And I think one of the most beautiful ways I saw this done recently is that my gorgeous friend Aurora literally like put a group chat together of a couple girls that we know and just like sent information about an upcoming candidate and was like, here's how you can get involved, like here's their views, da 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 da, like we can volunteer for the campaign or whatever. And like that was such a beautiful way to say like, hey, listen, I see what's going on, and particularly in our state, the state of Florida, which moment of silence. Anyway, she was like, I see what's going on. I see things are upsetting. How can we coalesce? Like, we're all upset about this, and we can all sit and be upset about this all day and talk about it all day long and talk about how fucking enraged we are and how disempowered we are and all of that. And that's a true, valid feeling. And there's time for that. But also, like, let's pull together then and do something about it. And I loved that. I love that she just like did that and put us together. Shout out to you, Aurora, because that was fucking amazing. And it was deeply inspiring. And I took that information and then shared it with further people I knew that would be interested in helping and getting involved in a way that is making this world a better place for all of us, because that is the true intention and goal here, and feeling that everyone is represented and everyone is looked after and everyone is taken care of. And that being said, that sense of community, but also like finding ways to connect with fellow human, like over a hug, over a cup of coffee, holding the door open for someone, like just finding little ways to get a smile from a stranger and know that like we are so much more deeply connected than we are giving credit. And James Baldwin said this the best many, 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 many years ago. But he said, like, one person's oppression is my oppression. Your oppression is not my safety. Because if somebody would oppress you, they would likely oppress me. And I just think there's something really to be said about that. And there's something really to be said about the community that we can form with each other in this time, not built on hatred, but built on hope. And finally, I really want to talk about how do you anchor into your purpose rather than panic? Because it feels like panic destabilizes and panic paralyzes. And it's thinking about like, what is one small action that I can take today? And this can look so many different ways. And it's like none of us can do everything, but all of us can do something. And by that, it's like, how can I connect to what I care about the most? Am I really, really connected? Like I have a deep love for the earth, and I feel motivated about the climate crisis and to be educated on that and to educate others about it. Do I care deeply about underprivileged groups, first generation students making it to college? And like maybe I want to get involved in something to mentor people getting into college. Like maybe I care deeply about how SNAP benefits were axed for millions of Americans and children and families. Okay, how can I gather some stuff to donate to my local food bank? You know what I'm saying? Like just finding your one way to help and keep finding your one way to help. And compassion, just like everything else, ripples out. There's no way that you can feel immense compassion in one place and then it not ripple into other places. Like the more that you develop the energy of compassion, the more that that compassion leaks into other places, and it will get you where you need to go. Just keep following the line. Follow the heat right now. What is singing your heart right now? What is like the biggest thing that you are feeling in your heart right now that is going on? And you're like, okay, follow that and then keep following that. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we have realized as a culture, as a community, is like how intersected all of these topics are. And I think that is such a beautiful way to look at this, because it's not all existing in a vacuum. It's not like this is happening over here and this is happening over there and that's happening over here. It's all connected by a center. And it's a center of how we treat fellow human and how we treat fellow earth and how we treat fellow beings. And if we can get more clear and more stabilized in that, imagine the things we could do together. This isn't a message to polarize us. This isn't a message to feel daunting. This isn't a message to just sit and rage. This is a message to say, okay, how do we take this and move this forward? So I'm challenging you. Think about it today. What is one thing that you can do? What is one thing you really care about that's going on in the world? And what can you do to help that? And what can you do to engage in it and to help others? And really centering your focus around that. If you feel lost in that, ask a friend, ask a trusted individual, pray about it. Like, get serious about, like, how do I do this work and how do I move forward with this? So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts around this, taking care of yourself amidst a world in chaos. And I feel like I could sit here and talk about this for hours, honestly, because there are so many moving parts and they are so connected. But the biggest thing that I can say is we would be a lot less disconnected from each other if we realized that our differences and creativity and curiosity can bring us to so much evolution and growth and love rather than disdain and distrust and hatred. And you have a lot more in common with your fellow person down the road that has a differing political belief than you do from the top 1%. And I'll leave it there. I love you. Have a really good day. Take care of yourself. Find your passion. Find what is bringing you heat. Follow that thread and trust that that thread will keep leading you where you need to go. It's the light at the end of the tunnel. Take care. Have a good week. Bye.